Hello, beautiful people. In this video, we're going to be exploring whether or not we should leave politics out of book 2. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm April. You can think of me as your bookish fairy godmother. My goal on this channel is to connect you with your next 5-star read. And these are just a few of the 5-star reads that live rent-free in my head. If you like what you see, I hope you'll subscribe, hit the bell, stay a while. All right, in my last video, I did a little unhaul of some books and I spoke to the US election results. Now this hit a nerve for a lot of people and had a lot of people in my comments questioning whether or not I should be even talking about politics on my BookTube channel. Now, I believe that books are inherently political. I think that if books weren't political and powerful, then we would never see book bans, like ever. They just wouldn't happen. Ta-Nehisi Coates recently did an interview with NPR, and he was there to promote his new book, The Message, and he had this to say about the power of books. Books in particular are very dangerous. This is one of the reasons why I wrote The Message. I don't think we perceive this. In fact, I think the people who are in favor of book bans understand the power of books much, much better than those that oppose them. Books are an intimate art form. It's a one-on-one connection. So that kid in South Carolina, that 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid is taking Between the World and Me, or whatever other book they're reading. They're taking it into their bedroom and they're having a connection with them that nobody else can actually perceive. Even if you took that book from the kid and read it yourself, you would still not have the same interaction because the way books work is they are necessarily a union between the imagination of the reader and the words on the page. Everyone's experience with a book is different. So today we are going to explore some books that I've read, fantastic books, might be 5-star reads for you that I believe are political. Whether you go into reading them that way or not, they are still inherently political. And I've broken it down into lovely little categories for you. We're starting with historical fiction. Historical fiction is political. Historical fiction inherently reflects political struggles and events of the day. The way that the characters that you read on the page live their lives are impacted by the politics and the laws of the day. They might even be threatened by those laws and politics. So let's look at a couple, shall we? Burial rites. In this book, we are reading about a woman who is going to be the last woman put to death in Iceland. Political. In Bel Canto, we have terrorists taking over the birthday party of a vice president in South America. Political. In Brooklyn, which I just read and really liked, we follow an Irish woman as she emigrates from Ireland to America in the 1950s. Political. In The Orphan Train, we follow 1-2-ish orphans who go from the East Coast to the farmlands of the Midwest, and people pick them up and take care of them, sometimes put them to work between 1854 and 1929, when these orphan trains ran quite regularly. Political. Also, this book got me back into reading after a really long stint of not reading. Anyway, The Invention of Wings follows abolitionist and suffragette Sarah Grimke as a child when she receives on her 11th birthday a black child as a slave, as a birthday gift. Totally messed up and totally explored their friendship in this book, The Invention of Wings. Political. And The Giver of Stars follows 3 librarians in the South who are known as the Pack Horse Librarians of Kentucky. Political. Now, fiction by authors of color are also political. They often confront issues of racism, colonialism, and even the erasure of their cultures in a white-centered society. So We've got Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, which is beautiful. And this follows Janie Crawford in the 30s when she moves to an all-black town, political. In The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, he reimagines the Underground Railroad to be an actual railroad, and we follow two black people trying to get away from being enslaved, and their story. Very mind-blowing and very sad in some cases, but political. The Joy Luck Club follows 4 women and their mothers, and explores how their mothers moved and emigrated from China in 1949 to San Francisco. Political. The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead follows a young black boy who did nothing wrong and is sent to a reformatory school, which is not really a school whatsoever, and suffers terrible abuses there. And it's based on an actual school in Florida, I believe. Political. The Hate U Give, about police brutality and a teenage girl dealing with that police brutality in a real personal way. Political. An American Marriage by Tayari Jones follows a man who is wrongly convicted of a crime, and it's about mass incarceration of black people and the effects that has on their families. Political. LGBTQIA plus fiction is also political. It is political because it fights for representation by centering the stories of queer characters. It questions the idea of norms, like norms surrounding sexuality and gender and family, and it offers alternatives in their place, and you end up really loving their characters as well. Like in The Pull of the Stars, where we follow a woman in 1918. It's in the midst of the Spanish flu, and she is in Dublin. 3 days we follow her as a nurse on a maternity ward trying to save the women there. Very much political. In The Animals at Lockwood Manor, it's World War II. People are moving things, artifacts, art, pieces at a museum to safety in the countryside, and we follow a woman as they are moved, and we follow her fall in love with a woman that lives there. Political. The Paying Guests by Sarah Waters follows, it's 1922 in London. We are dealing with a world in which there are a lot of men dead from the First World War, and we follow a woman with her mom who decide to rent out the second floor of their house to be able to keep their house, and they rent it out to a couple, and there is a romance in here that's very much queer and wonderful. Political. Women's fiction is also political. They often highlight the unfair, unequal treatment of women and what women face in a patriarchal society. So first up, we've got A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier, and this follows the surplus women. That's what they were actually called. Surplus women, where there were so many men passed away in World War I. There are a ton of women left over. What are they supposed to do with their lives? It explores the idea of feminism, of course, political. The Familiars by Stacey Halls follows 2 characters in 1612 Pendle Hill, England. It follows women trying to be in charge of their own health and their own futures. And there's witch trials in here, midwifery, and how that and the power of being a midwife is trying to be torn down by their patriarchal society. Completely political. The School for Good Mothers follows a world in which women don't have rights to their children. Women are so much judged for how they parent their children that the government can just take them away just like that, and they have to do a ton of stuff to keep their children back. Very depressing and terrifying. Political. Bright Young Women follows two women who both are affected by Ted Bundy. Their friends have been murdered by Ted Bundy, and this follows these women try to bring a complete psychopath, serial killer down and lift up the lives and the legacies of the women that they loved in their lives. Political. Last but not least for this is The Bass Rock by Evie Wyld, which follows through history the violence of men towards women. Completely political. And then we get to banned books. Now, books are banned for all sorts of reasons. They're too political. They're too radical. They're too controversial. When school boards and libraries decide to ban a certain book, it's because they're trying to control the narrative. They're trying to limit a certain kind of conversation that you can have only with a book. It's a one-on-one conversation, and they don't want you to have it. So The Handmaid's Tale, for example, it was banned in both Texas and Virginia for being anti-Christianity-esque. Anti-Christian. In Canada, the Golden Compass was banned by the Catholic School Board for being atheist and kind of anti-Christian, anti-religion entirely. And then we've got The Color Purple, which has been either challenged or banned in places like Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida for being too sexual, like sexual explicitness, and then also it's troubling ideas about race relations. So yeah, I believe BookTube should and is inherently involved in politics. And I think BookTube should stick its nerdy nose right into politics and never get our nose out of it. It's what we are. It is what we do. This is part of our lives. And I know that I missed so much. Like, I know that I didn't talk about the publishing industry and its relationship with politics. I didn't speak to how the literary canon is very white, very male-centered. Let's talk in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you believe that BookTube is political in nature, if books are political in nature, if you've thought about this before, if you think I've just touched on the surface of this and there's a whole iceberg underneath, which I believe. I'd love to hear from you, and I will chat with you soon. I think the next video coming up is my top 10 favorite World War II fiction books. So I will see you very soon. Bye!